it at all. But yes, as you say, as we go further and further down these tier lists, as the fearless bands continue to take more and more away, what exactly gets B1 at this point? That Cassante that you mentioned is still available. We saw an Mbessa B1 in our last series. We'll see. Maybe we'll get something like that again this time.
Yeah, the Rise is something that is obviously kind of, when we talk about B1s, it's almost exclusively either junglers or mid laners. Sometimes we get to see the rare Rumble and, Scion B1s coming on through. But with Jax, I mean, there's a couple of options. You can still go for stuff like Ornn. This might just be more of a classical front to back. Jarvan, however, does allow them a little bit of flexibility in terms of what they can accomplish.
I think if you're BLG, you could pick a mid laner here. I feel like it doesn't really matter though, because there's still so many really nice options that you could pair alongside this Jarvan. I'm thinking even notably like an Orianna that you could just send that shockwave on top of the Cataclysm, just trap everybody in this giant AoE. Very bold pick by Tarzan, but one that can work given the right composition. Response though, going to be Sejuani, locked in for Shadow. Normally that's paired alongside the Yone, although it was already picked in game number 1. So curious to see what Knight's going to want to play with this pick.
So, in terms of melees, there's not a lot. You could go for a Renekton topside if you know, like, hey, we're going to be setting up with the Sejuani. This is something that we could be looking for. And Bessa is still on the table, and while I've had my criticisms of Bin, he has started to get better and better at this champion as the year has gone by. We're getting the Lucian that has been a mainstay on the ban table. This is a champion that has really started to open up in terms of priority as more and more AD carries get explored throughout the meta.
You know what is pretty good with that Sejuani? It's Fiora. That's available here for Bin in Game 3. Well, obviously was in Game 3 at MSI, but that's going to be the Rise locked in instead for Shanks. Again, a big priority pick for him, obviously. Really good at like the battle mages, things like this, things like the Aurora. We matched alongside the Yorick for Flandre. We're going old school here in this first rotation.
Okay, what is the options coming on through? Don't think you really want to go for the Renekton this time, but still a possibility if they really so choose. You could also go for the Aurora as a flex. We've seen this champion kind of been moved around in the top side, but Ben has not so far shown Aurora this year. And that's going to be the case. We're going to get more and more Renekton through. So in terms of, playing long lanes, I really like what AL are showing. The Yorick is going to be really potent as this game goes on 2 and 3, and Rise just allows you to make a lot of really quick map plays, either before or after an objective. So I think BLG need to be really careful about what their next few picks are, and specifically how they play the map, because it has been something that they've struggled with so far.
Yeah, so the Renekton Sejuani combo, as you say, can form a very powerful 2v2 that can maybe try to just punish Flandre, take him out of the game early, or have some really nice skirmishing at the start of this game. But following up on that is going to be very important here for Bilibili Gaming, as both teams still have a lot of work left to do in the draft. Support's targeted here by BLG against Kael, whose pool really has significantly been pinched. The one thing that is still available is something like the Bard that he's had a lot of success on, especially over the last couple of weeks at MSI. And over on this other side here for AL, they have a mid laner locked in. Knight has not made his selection yet, so they're targeting some of his best champions and some things that can go well into the Rise.
Even just the Rise by itself, I like these bans. Annie, just to take away of the kind of pick and choose ultimates, that crowd control that you have access to thanks to her passive, and Aurora for the mobility that she provides. I was thinking either Victor or Orianna. The problem that I see with these matchups is there's a Jarvan on the enemy team, and even without him, there's going to be a Yorick in some of these team fights. You're going to have to deal with getting crowded into a single area. You're not going to be able to move as freely, so flashes are going to be a premium here for BLG, something that we look at them for. They're going to have some pretty good damage. In terms of team fights set up, I like the front line that they have. Something that worries me, however, as this game goes on is just how resilient AL are going to be. Like, Rise on 3 items has almost 4,000 HP.
That's true. I mean, the Victor's going to help a little bit here for Knight. Locking that one in. It's going to be Senna Nautilus to round out the bottom lane, the round of the composition overall for the side of anyone's legend, knowing that, of course, Lucian is going to be a champion that you can maybe, poke at with range a little bit, especially at the start of this laning phase. Allow for Hope to maybe get a little bit extra scaling. Waiting for support.
Braum.
What's it going to be?
Oh, Braum's banned.
Leona makes a lot of sense here, so that's going to do it. BLG, very front to back composition. I think overall pretty solid. The York always throws a bit of a needle, a bit of a random flair into things though for AL. Their 1-3-1 is going to be primarily, I think, what they're going to be looking for here.
Early on, I'm looking at BLG. They have the ability to really push their laners. This is a situation where Bin should be able to get priority versus Flandre, especially in the bottom lane. Elk and On can very easily push this 2v2 around. So how Shadow is able to actually manipulate his lanes. Does he use this to get timers into Tarzan? Tarzan shouldn't be worried too much about his own jungle camps, but making sure that he is a resilient Jarvan later in the game could provide a lot of problems for Bilibili. So AL on like 3 or 4 items, this game goes 35 minutes or longer. We start to have a lot of concerns here for BLG.
Yeah, because the Ryze, Senna, infinite scaling, you have even the Jarvan that can set up really nicely, can lock down, and a mobile threat like Knight on this Victor on the back line can do a ton to really just make these 5v5s a bit more chaotic here. As BLG want to break open this game a little bit earlier, they want to have a chance at claiming this series to open up their regular season. Always a bit of a weird situation to have one of the top teams in the league start off 0-1, but that's just what happens when you have a rematch of your finals here in the first game of the season. Anyone's Legends won the finals. They wanted MSI. BLG trying to revert that narrative, start themselves on a comeback and a road to redemption, back to their old form, maybe with a new jungler involved here in Shadow, who'll be piloting the Sejuani here in this game number 3. Final game of our finals rematch about to take place, AL against BLG.
Let's get those Jaios.
Getting there.
Maybe some of the more reserved BLG fans were like, oh crap, we won a game. Okay,
exactly.
We can be fair weather fans.
I was going to make that exact point. That is exactly what happened in the Ultra Prime NIP series the other day, or earlier today too. Where as soon as Ultra Prime won a game, there was like 2 people that cheered instead of 0.
It's unfortunate they weren't able to win out on that series, but something to note, we have both of our supports finally on this unsealed spellbook. Every game so far in this series has been only one of them holding on to it, so we'll be able to see some of that flexibility. And I was wondering if this was actually going to be an unsealed spellbook Sejuani game. I feel like the Aftershock doesn't get too much value, especially with how you expect fights to go, pretty low and slow when it comes to damage. I feel like unsealed spellbook maybe gives Shadow a few more options, especially in the mid game, to make some things happen. So unfortunate to see, but again, tank stats totally fine in the situation as both junglers are pathing down towards the bottom side.
Yeah, getting like an extra TP to like rotate yourself back to another clear of camps, like or get to an
my
objective
jungler
faster.
knowing how to use TP. Let's slow down there.
Oh, I mean, it's gonna have to use all the summoner spells at some point. I mean, that's how it works, right? Well, we're getting engaged early on. Let's hope to burn his heal actually very early on in this lane. Just the Zenith Blade was all it took from On.
I mean, that Sunlight passive is dangerous, as we've been seeing from this Leona and Lucian pair. Lucian still kind of a lane bully, especially in these matchups, but doesn't have that same mid-game power spike that we saw from him from like 2 or 3 years ago, where you would sit with like rapid fire second item and you're sitting there with Collector and you have like first strike, you're really trying to play on mid waves. It's not the same champion as it used to, especially with some of the item changes. So looking on a 2 or 3 item power spike, mostly just abusing an item like Navori Flicker Blades, which personally I'm not a huge fan of on Lucian. I do think that the damage build is much better, but we'll see what Elk and On prefer to do as this game goes on, and we might get a full clear Jarvan here. Maybe into mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, if your bot lane burned a summoner spell early and all that, it's not in a good position. As you're pathing down bot, maybe that's just the most logical thing to do at this point. Doesn't mean the Shadow is a little bit quicker, at least for now. Not going to matter too much. Doesn't mean that he will be at the river first, but see who exactly wants to contest the Scuttle Crab. Looks like Tarzan's actually just going to be completely fine with rotating up to the top side. Thought that maybe with Shanks pushing that wave in, could have had an opportunity to try to contest 2v2.
He's like, I'm not facing this guy, because regardless of if Tarzan gets a full combo down, nice buffer coming out from Kael onto On, but the Aftershock plus the Sejuani Frost Armor passive makes it essentially impossible for Tarzan to deal meaningful damage versus Sejuani. So instead, we'll just take the topside Scuttle, does cover for this Sejuani, or cover for this Yorick as the early game progresses. If Shadow does look for something, he knows that Sejuani is going to be on the top side of the map, so this is another situation where Flandre, maybe 30% HP right now, as we see on the minimap, has to be very careful about where he is and for any kind of jungle assistance to come through.
Some more light trading down here. Actually, a whole heal used as Hope is taken down very low. You can see the power of this Lucian Leona at this point. I was a bit of a doubter when it first got announced, but you can see just, or when it first started getting to play, but you can really see the power that it has in the early game.
I like the idea that Lucian and Leona get paired up together after Senna gets taken. It's like we're launching our relationship, guys. We are hard launching. It's not a soft launch anymore.
It's I know, she's watching on the other side. How rude.
And then her pair have got a Nautilus. I think one of these people got out. Depends on how you feel about Nautilus body standards, but me personally, you know what? Actually, I'm going to defend my statement here, because I said this when I was a Slayer. Yeah. Nautilus is sometimes an ideal body shape.
It's a big boy. Sometimes you just need that big guy you can lie on.
She's got a shield for me. Leona is very selfish. She just makes herself tankier.
He's also one of those champions, like in the lore, is like huge, right? Like,
yeah,
like
he's
the size
massive.
of like a lighthouse.
He's supposed to be
something.
under the ocean and stuff.
Yeah,
he's pretty chill. But as we get back into this game,
anyway,
let's see how much more Elkanon can actually do, because with the Summoner Spellbook, we might see some early Ignite action, and as long as Elk is able to keep up this PTA, we're expecting for Hope to be suffering throughout the early game.
But that's okay if you're Senna. At least, you know, that's the goal, at least, because you can scale into, of course, that later stage. That is where we feel like Anyone's Legends does have the power in this draft. When you get Ryze and you get Senna fully stacked up, you know, you got a tier working here. The BLG don't want to make that happen, as now it is Dominus popped by Bin, gonna follow the flash up to make sure that Kolomik lands, and Shadow comes in to pick up his second straight first blood.
Another situation where Flandre walks up a little too far. Look at where the rest of his team is on the map right now. Tarzan's on the top side looking for jungle camps, trying to get any kind of vision and information. Shanks is even kind of pathing towards that, especially with the Realm Warp. Maybe they were trying to set up for a dive.
Yeah, now
but yeah, Shadow just gets across mid and protect his topside camps. Bin gets to crash 2.5 waves, and Flandre had no summoner spells after using the flash, so because he teleported to the bottom lane wave, Bin gets to open up yet another large advantage.
And that's how, that was a big X factor in their last game, that Bin was able, or just kind of this whole series, right? It's been like the top lane being the difference. In game number 1, it was Flandre up like 5,000 goals on the Rumble. He like had multiple insane equalizers that ended up just like dismantling some of these fights with BLG. Then in game 2, it was Flandre who struggled in the Jace versus Gwen matchup. Bin had himself a phenomenal series. You think he was robbed of the player of the game even. And now we're starting to see a little bit more of that game 2 vibes in this final decider, at least for now.
There is a difference between Bin Renekton and Gwen and Bin Sion. I think we are getting to see a little bit, and he's getting jungle attention, which is nice. Shadow is definitely helping him out. It is part of what this pair is able to do. So for the time being, let's see how much more Bin can actually get done in this matchup. There was also no, Flandre did not even bother to summon the Maiden there. Still trying to save this, recognizing that if Sejuani is to come down here, that makes it particularly difficult. Maybe they go for something on the Bin, but there is just no way for them to do anything here.
They're gonna try to stun up Bin. Has his ulti, so should be able to heal up nicely with that Q as well. And the Fury fully stacked up. Bin should be all fine. In the meantime, it's Shadow picking up some grubs.
I am very worried about this play here, Graves, because not only is it grubs, it's also some turret plates here for Lucian. Lucian's going to be feeling pretty nice about this trade right now. Bin even gets to still collect this wave for himself. A Realm Warp from Shanks means that he'll be able to pick up this wave. Seems like Hope and Kael are going to be destined for a mid lane wave in a few minutes. And an overall good trade here for BLG.
Oh man, well, look at where we're at right now. BLG have that gold leading game 3 with a new jungler. They're looking to try to have that miracle run continue as they go in onto the Drake. Shadow not able to get in there in time as it's Tarzan to secure the smite, but he should be able to get taken down by that Arcane Storm Knight's the one to claim the kill. But here comes the rest of anyone's Legends. Kael in with that dredge line forcing the flash away from On. Will there be enough chase? Will there be enough follow-up? Hope flashes over the wall to try to take down the Leona, but the Leona might just be too tanky. Somehow keeping himself alive, allowing for that permafrost stacks to land on the Hope, but it won't be enough for Shadow to try to finish the deal, a 1-for-1 overall.
May our observers go to the top side. Thank you. 2 plates here for Elk. No one is answering this Lucian right now. BLG, they may not have gotten the dragon, but they still take 2 kills, and they have 3 grubs. Elk is incredibly fed at this point, and more importantly, you take away a potential win condition with this Yorick and this Ryze sitting in side lanes and having any of the grubs. So I think so far BLG have answered so well. I don't know what's happening in the background here. Obviously AL are getting outplayed in some of these situations, but maybe Kael leading review is doing a hell of a lot of good work.
At least in this game, as really nicely done by BLG to, even if they can't get the dragon, but first focus onto the single target, and then be able to make sure most of their members end up getting out pretty safe.
Something we saw in game number 1 was Maokai starting up the dragon by himself after a huge fight for AL, and it's taking him a little too long, and so BLG are able to answer back during that fight afterwards. This is the same thing. I mean, Sejuani had just finished the grubs on the top side. She moves all the way down to the dragon, and Jarvan had been soloing this objective by himself. So in the way that AL have been very self-sufficient for their laners, not necessarily playing for Tarzan's objective, BLG are just saying, okay, look, we love to play around our solo lanes. Let's just give them a nice large injection of gold. So BLG, I mean, Bin has that assist that we saw earlier. Knight even picking up a kill means that he's a little bit closer to his evolves. This is a good start here for Bilibili, almost 2,000 gold up, and they're taking control of this top side jungle, having Knight push in another wave, and maybe even looking for a turret with their 3 grubs.
I mean, you mentioned gold for the solo lanes here for BLG, but Elk, as you mentioned, got a lot on the Lucian as well, has his first completed item. Everybody on BLG looking nice so far, even On, who gets hooked here by Kael and just what is a little bit of poke damage. The thing again, though, you have to remember to iterate that BLG, their composition, maybe not as strong as we get to the later game. Knight's surely going to be powerful, but when you think about that infinitely scaling Senna, when you think about what Shanks is able to do after he hits level 16, AL might be able to work things better in the side lanes as this game continues to progress. But right now, it is BLG in this decisive game number 3 that have the upper hand.
The big break point for me when I'm watching AL is how fast they can get Static Shiv for this Senna. It makes her a bit more competent in being able to contest for wave priority and push. Seeing some top side fights. Remember, there is a Senna with her ultimate here. BLG need to pick their fights carefully.
Oh, nice buffer canceling that Zenith blade here from Kael. The culling comes out, but the Nautilus is eating the whole load of it. Not any much damage left onto it, but it will be a trade 1-for-1 as Tarzan EQs straight to his doom. Shanks, though, doing a ton of damage to try to bounce back a little bit, but it will not be enough, as down in the bottom side of things, it has been forcing a Flandre back by popping the Dominus.
Pops the Dominus and also kills the Maiden here, so a lot of the power budget of Yorick's kit is placed in that ultimate, and with it gone, Bin can feel a little bit more confident to step up, maybe with these 3 grubs even get himself a turret plate. But a great trade nonetheless here for BLG as they look for something on a Hope. There's no cleanse.
Yeah, he's a very squishy Senna, not even gonna have the chance to use that cleanse before he just gets one shot by Elk.
This is the BLG that we were kind of looking forward to at the beginning of the year. I mean, they're playing aggressive, they're taking trades on every part of the map, and AL cannot answer. Shanks doesn't have nearly enough damage to try to answer this. Tarzan's going to go forward. I don't think it's going to turn into too much, but even getting his flash, that's amazing. BLG are running this third game.
You know what happened, Alk? They got a new
Kael.
jungler. They got a new jungler.
Okay.
Always happen.
Well,
It always freaking happens, man. No matter whenever there's a new jungler swapped in, BLG just suddenly become the best team in the world for a couple weeks, and then it all falls apart. They got to do it again. Shadow somehow making it happen, at least here in this game 3, as BLG have jumped up to a 3K gold lead before the plates have even fallen. Knights 2-0. Shadow, 100% kill participation, and the rest of the team doing well too. For anyone's Legends, you know you scale, but you don't want to let this game get out too far out of reach. It's going to become really difficult to make sure you even get to that late game.
Well, thankfully for AL, they still have ways of being able to answer on side lanes. Again, the Realm Warp, such a big part of this game. Same thing with the Dawning Shadow from the Senna. And now has the Static Shiv, so should be able to more freely walk around. But, I mean, Elk, he got 3 plates to himself. He has a 30 CS lead over his opponent right now. And aside from that, I mean, even Flandre is a little bit behind on a champion that, honestly, he's pretty well known for. He was one of the few York players that I actually kind of trusted in games early on in Split 2. So right now it's going to be BLG getting ready to start up on this dragon. You can see that AL are instead looking to make some kind of secretive play in mid lane. I like this, moving alongside, using the Senna E to hide multiple members, and they're going to look to contest for the Herald.
No, Solar Flare though lands onto Hope. He has both of his summoner spells. It's going to be matched here by Kael. An absolutely clutch depth charge will keep Hope alive. It comes at the cost of the dragon, but a much needed response for AL.
And now they're going to move over to this Herald. I don't know if this is their play. I don't know if they have the timer for this. It is a numbers advantage here for anyone's Legend. There are no TPs from either Bin or Flandre. And instead, Knight, he's going to TP for this. Instead of trying to contest, they're going to make this dive happen, at least maybe get a turret for themselves and get feats of strength.
Will Flandre try to stay around? He has the Maiden at his disposal. You have to use it quick. And now a teleport comes in from Shanks as well. Going to be a 2v3 unless Shanks doesn't get there in time. Flandre flashes away from the Glacial Prison, but still will get taken down. Shanks going to be able to make at least one go down alongside him, but it'll be a 2-for-1 overall. And the tower will still surely go BLG's way at the cost of the Herald.
Really nice dive. Not only getting the flash from Flandre, but the TP as well from Shanks. And you get all of this gold, all of these assists onto your Victor. Very good play coming in from BLG, who we may have had some questions, we may have had some concerns, but so far in their first game back from MSI, it seems like they are getting back into the swing of things. Whether that's some coaching staff changes, whether that is some player changes, will have to be revealed as the season goes on.
Talk about that dive again. It was very well executed. Obviously, one player did die in that exchange, and that's never the best thing. Has been, you know, it did end up donating a kill over to Shanks. But you're pretty satisfied about that, all things considered. It's essentially a 1-for-1 trade in terms of the turrets, and you get more kills on top of it. So you're at BLG. You need to keep pushing the pace. You have Shadow in a very strong position right now. Knight nearly having that second item completed. Lot to look forward to here if you are a BLG fan.
The lane assignments from AL just feel suffocating, honestly. Just constantly having to, okay, we're going to go to this wave. Well, now they're putting 2 members and 3 people in our topside jungle. So another turret here for Knight. This Victor is going to be incredibly far ahead of the curve. Already 20 CS over Shanks. And maybe another fight coming on through.
Yeah, nicely done again by Kael to try to cancel some of that initial engage, but the Solar Flare still will connect. The Arcane Storm doing so much damage, but finally here comes Tarzan. The Cataclysm is going to be his own demise, but the health bars are still low, and Hope is full HP on the back line alongside Shanks, but still, Shanks flashes forward, nearly takes down Elk. On will be the first target. Shadow and Knight now on the run, and Shanks and Hope save the fight for AL.
The huge carries of AL are able to make it happen. Realm Warp to try to finish this off. This is greedy, Shanks. Just go for the wave, brother. You're already behind in gold at this moment. AL finally find footing here in this game, where it has looked almost entirely BLG favored. They had feats of strength, and they were able to grab the grubs. I like the way that they were pushing AL around the map, and the start of this is so good for them. AL are split. There is no way for them to deal damage. Flandre is keeping Elk from this fight, and that might be the backbreaker for anyone's legend. The Lucian no longer a part of this. You can see how tanky Shadow and Bin are, but without the ability to get onto this full HP Ryze and Senna, AL just gonna have a firing range onto the rest of their opponents.
And who better to give the kills over to than to Shanks and to Hope, the two players that will scale in this late game the best, as AL get themselves a little bit closer to that late game that they eventually should be stronger than BLG in a 5v5 if things go their way. Still a lot of game to play though, as BLG still have their carries in great positions. They still have a tremendous front line, but that was the start of something for our defending champs.
AL were trapped in this cycle of having to go to one lane and then having to TP to match. BLG were making forward and I think more progressive moves than their opponents. But finally a fight goes their way for AL and at least gives them some breathing room here. Finally they can kind of move around the map a little bit more freely, catch their waves. More for Tarzan, just making sure that he's actually able to stay relevant in this game as the Jarvan. And give yourself some more time, which is all you need when you're having a composition that has a Yorick, a Ryze, and a Senna.
And to be fair, there are still scaling elements for BLG, specifically Knight, who is in a really good position right now, going to have that Rod of Ages stacked up before Shanks is going to give him that XP advantage at least for a couple of minutes or so. And then, when the rest of the team's able to contest. But AL, they're going to be able to continue to scale. You have Hope right now sitting at 65 Senna stacks, which is in a decent spot. We're going to try to get those numbers up as we get towards that late game. Hextech Dragon's available. AL, the ones to be around there first, but not wanting to risk it to just fully send the objective yet.
Well, On's teleporting for this. Kael will be able to do the same. Flandre's teleport is coming up. Do AL want to contest this? Because if they lose this fight, there's a very large potential for BLG to go for Otacon afterwards. Let's just get Flandre his turret. Let's try to get him back into this game. I like that AL are willing to be a little bit more patient and trade the objective for a bit more time on the map.
And with the Maiden popped in the top lane, Flandre should be able to take just a big chunk of this tier 1 turret, although Bin has been sent up to the area to make sure that it's a little bit more difficult. Glacial Prison nicely dodged from guy Kael. But BLG not able to find anything here off of that mid lane play. Culling comes out, forcing a heal out of Kael, as Hope will be able to keep himself nice and healthy here. Now AL can maybe have a little bit of a timer to go for something on their own.
I think the problem that we're starting to see here for BLG is with these outer lanes so pushed, it is so easy for AL to move in either with the Ryze or even just having this Jarvan. With both of these outer turrets already taken for BLG, they can't step too much farther up unless they want more people there.
Oh.
Say that.
On sent forward with the flag and drag. Elk gets hit by the depth charge as well. A full fight has begun in the bottom side of River. And Kael now has to flash away. Zenith Blade not going to land, but Bin coming in with a teleport with the dominance already popped going on to Flandre. But he's able to keep himself alive. Still 5 members strong for both teams, but no objective to fight over other than the Otacon that BLG could have the opportunity to retreat towards.
An incredibly clutch summoner spellbook there from Kael. He took Cleanse after getting his teleport, so he gets the Cleanse out of the CC from Shadow and ends up living, maybe because of it. So I think a smart play from AL, just getting a few ultimates out from their opponents. I think maybe a more worrisome thing for me is there's no flash from Kael or from Flandre, and you did get the TP out from Bin. So this map is so interesting. I think this is going to be a great workshop to watch around, not only because of the Ryze, but these teleports being so important. And because it is a Hextech Rift, getting around the map is really deceptive.
Shadow's just standing there right now. He finds the Glacial Prison on the Hope. He immediately cleanses away, but Kael now in some trouble as well. He's down to less than 100
He's out.
But Tarzan with a 3-man Cataclysm might have tried to save this fight. Shanks is very far out of position. He has a Seraph Shield, but it will not be enough. He's forced to go golden, but there's 4 members of BLG there to take him down. He gets one with him, but it'll be a one-way trip here as BLG still control the Rift.
And what this means now for BLG is that the solo lanes will be able to pick up gold. They're going to kind of push out more waves. And then I'm looking at mid lane. How close is this turret to falling? Because he might even have Demolish. He doesn't, but guess what? He has 3 grubs, so it doesn't matter. BLG will make out with 3 kills, multiple flashes out from Shanks and Tarzan, and a turret to boot. We get to watch this fight again. Remember, we just took a fight in the top side of this river, not even 30 seconds ago, and because of the Hextech rifts, BLG going to be right back out of the map and force AL's hand. I love these looks from BLG. Keep them off kilter. Do not allow BLG or for AL to find their way back into this game.
Shanks somehow able to get this kill back onto Elk. That
Flash
was
W,
massive
brother.
in terms of making sure that Otacon was not going to be a target. And because of that, we're still in a relatively similar position in this game, Elk, than when we were about 10 to 15 minutes ago. BLG up a little bit, but not by enough for AL to really be put to bed. The Otacon has been started up, but they're taking it rather slow at this point. They're trying
Shanks
to bait in anyone's legend. Shanks is on the way, as you mentioned, having that ultimate at his disposal with the Baron. Otacon is at 5,000 HP. Dawning Shadow comes over to the top. The health bars on BLG are starting to melt a little bit. AL regaining control of the pit. Shadow's going to have to get in there and try to claim this for his team if they want to have any chance. There's the Collision Prison. In they go. Who's going to get it? It's secured by On. And now the Arcane Storm will start to rip apart the defending champions of the LPL. BLG find themselves the team fight. They get the Otacon. It's a double kill in for Bin and Hope's the last remaining survivor as Elk will shut him down.
There it is. AL unable to get in control of the Otacon, and BLG, maybe it's a honeymoon, who knows, man, but they are playing so much better than what we saw from them at the beginning of this series. Bin's going to go in mid lane, take down the mid tier 2. The rest of BLG are going to go and finish off this turret. And hey, guess what? They can recall 30 seconds before the dragon spawns, and they've got Hextech rifts. They can get right back out on the map. I like this from On. Redeploys onto the map and makes sure that he gets vision to stop AL from starting a potential Baron.
What a massive fight by Bilibili Gaming. Gets them that bottom lane tier 2 tower, gets them that Otacon, gets them a 7,000 gold lead, and somehow On, of all people, with that Spellbook Smite is the one to secure this objective.
Kael has not been looking for Spellbook Smites, and Kael was unable to use any of his abilities onto Shadow before the fight started. Tarzan gets completely blocked off, and the rest of the fight is just a wash from that point on. It has looked a little back and forth, but these last two games, BLG have been that much better than their opponents. I feel like they are skirmishing a lot better. They are, I think, positioning in a little bit more confident spots. And while I had some questions, some qualms about how they played game 2, this third game is feeling more and more like BLG of old.
And you wonder if this is going to stick. Is this the formula that could get BLG back to their internationally acclaimed status? Because obviously for Beishuan it worked pretty well too for the first half of the season, and then things maybe started to slip. BLG with Shadow here, looking to close out this best of 3 against the defending champions, against anyone's legends who they just lost to at MSI, who they lost to in Grand Finals. And they're in a great position to do it right now.
We talked about AL scaling. It's still tough here, down 7,000 gold. Shanks has hit those 3 items that we were kind of talking about, but only half a level away from level 16 is still a lot when you have to be able to share experience with some of your members. Knight already completing that. It has a hell of a lot of damage to boot. I'm looking at Hope, man. He has to finish this Executioner's Calling. Maybe that opens up a spot for AL to actually fight, but I'm still worried. There's honestly, top lane has been a vortex of pressure as Bin has really taken Flandre to task once he's gone off of the boring Scion champs.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the big thing. Been the difference maker so far in this series. And now they're looking for Shanks. A beautiful Hex Gate over is going to cause chaos in the Baron pit right now. Shanks already down. Tarzan going to try to take down Knight, and he does, but he doesn't have a lot of health bars left. Hope is only alongside him for now, and Tarzan will try to get in onto Elk, try to finish off some sort of kill, but it'll be all for naught. Only Tarzan remains alive, and BLG are going to look to shut the door on this series. Shadow dashing forward, the new jungler, helping Elk secure the ace and help BLG get their way over to the Baron.
Bin is continuing to play side lane Renekton. He does not want to be a part of most of these fights. Opens up the inhibitor for his team. The Baron's going to go over to BLG. And AL, for as dominant as they've been, mechanically sometimes they do flounder. I think a big problem with them sometimes is their early games aren't as clean. Here we're getting to see them get punished again. This Baron is going to have a perfect overlap with the Hextech Soul spawning in 2.5 minutes. BLG taking them to task here in this series.
10,000 gold. And remember, Ock, we were thinking like, hey, AL maybe just win this one, right? With all the hesitation of Shadow coming into this starting lineup and not being able to find too much. But in that first
what
game,
happened to Flandre, man? Like, we're getting dry solo killed like this in the middle of the map. It's a good flank there from Bin while this is happening, and it cuts off Flandre from reaching. Just the rest of the team isn't there. AL look completely scattered. Maybe it's due to the fact that they haven't had a break in a while, but I mean, you're a top level team.
Going in on a Bin again, he just is going to not fall. Tarzan sends that Cataclysm straight to his doom once more, as in goes Bin, onto the back line. Giga Bin is back, and he is hungry for more damage, for more carnage in the LPL. He'll finally go down before picking up a double kill, but hope will fall, and all hope for your defending champions is out the window. BLG lost in the finals, BLG lost in MSI, but they've had enough. They've taken down anyone's legends, and they will kick off the regular season with a bang.
I think an important win for them. We talked about playing it in double round robin, how this potentially could affect their seeding going into playoffs. But I think for me, when I look at this BLG roster, this is a win that they needed coming off of some pretty disappointing defeats in the last 3 weeks of their competition. And while it is the first one that they play here in the LPL, starting off like this, beating the incoming defending champions, an important one for Bilibili.
What can I say? Jungler buff. It strikes again.
Oh,
Shadow.
Man.
He had a really good game, actually, on that Sejuani. I want to give him some credit there. You know, securing a lot of space. He just became an immovable object by the end of that one. But a lot of credit has to go towards that guy right there, Bin. For all the struggles he had in Split 2, all the ups and downs, even at international competition. He really stepped up in the 2 wins that they had here today.
Shadow was definitely a big portion of their wins. I'm really glad to see that he's doing well. I think despite maybe some of our issues with how he's asserted himself in the FPX lineups, he's at least a very fun player. At the very least, I think he's a very communicative player. So looking to see how much more he can kind of add to this team. And I don't know. I mean, it's only one game, right? Like, it's a 2-1 series. It's the beginning of their lineup. When we look at BLG, their next upcoming matches, they're going to be facing off against FPX tomorrow, and they're going to be going up against IG, which might be a much harder matchup than that next upcoming one. If they go on a run, that puts them in really good spots for playoffs, and having to kind of play that bout of how far can we push ourselves before we get a break.
Hey, this is just a start. You know, potentially, you remember what happened when Beishwan got inserted into that lineup. They were not having a lot of success with Wei, and all of a sudden they won like 9, 10 series in a row. As soon as they stuck in that new jungler, maybe this is what's going to happen again. I know the memes were kind of maybe playing into it a little bit, but hey, they look pretty good this time around. And the Soul Laners really stepped up as well. I know that they had their ups and downs at MSI specifically, but Bin had a great performance. I think Knight played very solidly just throughout the series, and that's going to be the real difference. It's not really, you know, Beishwan versus Shadow. Does that really make a difference? I feel like the biggest difference is if these superstars really come in and just perform as well as we know that they can.
Something to note for both BLG and AL is, again, as top level teams, the schedule's pretty packed. Now that we have 3 splits, we have 3 internationals, it doesn't get much better for them. Because of their late start into the LPL, they have more 3-block weeks than any other teams in the regular season. Some teams, they have only 1 week where they have to play 3 series. These guys are playing 3 or 4 of them in a single week, 3 or 4 times this season. And we play 42 days in a row. I don't envy them in terms of their position. Obviously, it is a lot to be able to represent a region internationally, but burnout is very real. I mean, even look at Gen G, right? Like they won their very first set coming back into the LCK. They immediately qualify for Worlds, but they have played very long tournaments. So it's the start of the season, still got a lot of time before we kind of etch out the rest of what this standings look like, but just things to start thinking about as we get into the season.
Yeah, no, I mean, we talk about these being, just the regular season and things like that, but it has to feel so good if you are BLG to get that monkey off your back a little bit. Obviously dealing with some turmoil on their roster all season long, going in from Shun leaving to then Wei coming in and then having to replace him with Beishuan and then now Shadows entering. And you really haven't been able to take down anyone's Legends, at least in the playoffs. Remember the upper finals, then the grand finals, then over at MSI in these meaningful games. Sure, it's just a regular season matchup at this point, but it must feel good. And hopefully they can keep that momentum running, because the more good teams, the more solid teams we have here in the LPL, the better.
Oh, yeah. And for AL, I mean, a tough loss, especially those last two games. Just felt like Flandre really dropped the ball in two separate games now here. And I'm not going to fully blame him for this third game. Obviously, a bit of a different situation where this was a B1 Jarvan. I do have to call into question what exactly we were kind of looking for. I personally feel like Jarvan can be a little more flexible with what he's able to do. He's not just like this brainless level 3 gank, spam ganks for like low econ jungle. He provides a lot of utility. He can also be kind of a crowd control bot with using his EQ and the way he gets his flash to jail melee members. But it just didn't seem like it was very cohesive. AL tried to play a bit more fast on the map, and BLG did punish them for that.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if that hurts at all for AL, if they are just like, oh, it's a regular season game. We beat them in the moments that were more important, but obviously still a lot to look forward to from this team. They've not locked their spot up at Worlds just like Gen G have just yet, but certainly in a good position to make it back to international if they keep up the performances that we've seen from them all year long. If you get a look at some of these highlights, again, very close fights all throughout. This was the moment where maybe I thought anyone's Legends had a chance to get back into this one, but it was just a really good job by BLG to find these fights. This specifically from Shadow I thought was very aggressive, and it ended up paying off big time.
I'm glad that he's able to be that go button for this team. This fight in general was so bankrupt in my mind. Like, Kael goes back in, there's a Jarvan ultimate. The coordination from anyone's Legend, something that has been a strength for them all year long. How tight-knit and synchronized this team usually looks is an important part of their success. We didn't get to see it too much today, especially in the back half of this series. And back to kind of at least I would say a break, but both of these teams play tomorrow.
Yep.
BLG FPX is tomorrow. Weibo versus AL is tomorrow. I think those are layup series for them.
You say layup, but I feel like here in Group Ascend, anything really can happen. We got some crazy results happen last split. I feel like we haven't gotten too many upsets, at least in Group Ascend yet, but still a lot of opportunities for that here. And these teams, they had their break. They had like the 2 days that they had, coming back, waiting for the season to start again. So, you know what? They might have to take it just right back to the grind. That's what it's like here in the LPL, where you just constantly are having your skills tested. If you get a look at this last fight here, in terms of player of the game, I feel like Bin probably deserves it just because of how important he was in terms of his laning difference, as well as, of course, some of those big fights at the end of things. But
I think it should be Shadow. We were just complimenting him. I mean,
yeah, that's fair. That's fair
won.
Too.
If it's not Shadow, then it's On, because On got 2 separate smites that were up for grabs versus the 2 junglers. Maybe it's Unsealed Spellbook who really deserves the MVP. These will be considered as the voting goes forward.
I mean, yeah, the last fight here, just proving BLG are here to play. They get that 2-1 win over anyone's Legends, conquering their demons and making sure that they're not just going to be a team that falls over, rolls over dead after some roster changes that maybe they were not expecting to have. So BLG off to a good start here in Group Ascend with a win. The question is, will they be able to use that momentum and keep it rolling throughout the season into the playoffs, maybe even potentially internationally? suppose only time will tell as we await for our player of the game here. It's been a fun day, Alk. I know you got one more series to close us out as well.
We got JDG versus WE after this. We're going to be bringing Yanni in so that fellow ESTers can actually go to bed. Shadow gets an MVP, rightfully earned, honestly, for how he's performed, and I think it is the perfect knot to end this series on. Shadow, new jungler coming on for BLG. He gets the MVP for the final game of the series so that they can go 1-up versus anyone's legend.
Taking down the defending champions of the league. Final score here, 2 to Bilibili Gaming, 1 to anyone's legends, as BLG move up to 1-0 on the regular season here in Group Ascend. And Shadow making an impact here with this